Shiny Pokemon have always had a special place on this channel, and as we've critiqued and placed many shiny Pokemon to lists in our Pro Ranker Reacts to Shiny Pokemon kinds of ways, it's always exciting to see new shiny Pokemon that have never been seen before introduced into the games. We'll be going over every single new shiny Pokemon that'll be brought into Pokemon thanks to the Crown Tundra, and ranking them to see which design makes it to the top as the best new shiny Pokemon in the expansion. We'll be showing off all the new shiny Pokemon, including the new Shiny Legendary Pokémon, because that's 90% of the list. So if you're looking to be surprised and not spoiled, just save this video for after you've found those out, and subscribe for more videos on new games, as we'll be going through every single shiny Pokemon in the Crown Tundra. Welcome as we rank all 10 of the new shiny Pokemon in the Crown Tundra Sword and Shield expansion. Number 10. These are technically two different Pokemon, but their shinies are exactly the same to where I thought they should be in their own spot together. At the bottom. So yeah, it's 11 Pokemon, but these could just be fused into one. The problem here is that both of the rider versions have only Calyrex as shiny, and neither of the horse's shiny characteristics are brought in. We'll show off those shinies later on just to surprise you, but this really is only shiny Calyrex on top of the regular version of these horses, and considered a shiny Pokemon altogether. So that's why it's in the same section, because each one is like half a shiny Pokemon, and together two halves make a whole and then you can climb out. It's not just that Calyrex is barely changed, even though the color isn't bad, it's that neither of the horses have their shiny aspects brought in, and are left out of the club. Calyrex is just there hoarding the whole spotlight. Sometimes it's nice to share. Number 9. Glastrier. Personally, I don't hate this shiny, I still think it's not that bad. However, the lack of change and barely able to tell it's shiny made it a little less desirable. Glastrier shiny is one of those Pokemon where its original form could be either color because of how little is changed. They really only changed the added ice fixtures to a darker blue, and while it's a good color to not make it the worst possible thing, I'm sure fans wouldn't even mind a straight up lime green just to see a huge difference between the two. I think they darkened up the body by like 0.1 also, but I can't even tell. The original form looks good and is one of my favorite Pokemon, not stats wise, and while I do like the gray-blue mixture, the original color already gives me what the shiny color is trying to portray, but unfortunately, the shiny lacks a little bit of the change and sheen we want to see. Number 8. Calyrex. Although its rider versions were lower on this list, it doesn't mean that its own shiny version on its own is bad. This is a nice color, it has a nice glow to it, it isn't that drastic of a difference, but at least the full Pokemon feels like a shiny Pokemon compared to its forms where only a portion of it is shiny. Which is what the problem is with those previous shiny Pokemon. On its own, shiny Calyrex does look rather nice, but it still does have the problem that some of the shiny Pokemon from the Isle of Armor had, where it's a little plain, not too much is added on, just this hued down yellow-gold combination with very minor changes like Zarude's chest plate. As a shiny Pokemon though, there's not much you can ask for besides the color choice, which this is a pretty good one, and gives a nice royal glimmer to Calyrex. Number 7. Slowking. The apparent portion of new colors on shiny Galarian Slowking can be a little lacking at first, but just in comparison to shiny Galarian Slowbro, Slowking does a much better job. It looks a little deprived of oxygen from a very tight helmet, but the color choice for a king that wanders around the cold winter area does give it some meaning. I guess technically Slowbro's dung brown shiny look also fits wandering around the Isle of Armor, but the execution of Slowking and how much better it is compared to Slowbro makes Slowking a much better shiny Pokemon, and one that's pretty nice to see. With a closer introspective look, you can really see they did add a lot more to this. Shiny Calyrex is a good shiny, and is really where the list started. It has a good choice of color throughout, but shiny Galarian Slowking just has a lot more choices made, and it's changed up nicely. They darkened up and defined its body, the pink looks more lavish, and the little gem in Slowking's crown is a really nice addition to change into a pink orb compared to its original green color. It's a shiny where if you don't like the color, you can at least appreciate the consideration they put in, where they changed a little more than what's been typically seen to be changed in DLC shinies, and the little gem really feels like finding an Easter egg when noticing the difference. Still looks like a zit though, so it's at number 7, but I'm glad Game Freak decided to adjust more than just the hue of the entire Pokemon. Number 6. Galarian Moltres. The Galarian birds have a common trait in their shiny version, where they follow the colors of their original forms. That can bring back the nostalgia for some, feel lazy to others, and might push them up a little more on some lists just because of the nod to those original forms. But we'll mostly be focusing on how they look on their own, but with a little bit of joy of that chosen nostalgic idea mixed in. It's alright, I do like seeing Moltres with the blazing flames and its shiny during this form, since the mood of Kanto to Galar is completely different in these Pokemon. It's still like an honorary joke number 1 pick for me, however, seeing as it just looks like a clown. It's the funniest looking bird out of all of them, but I know it can look weird to some. The flames and more fiery phoenix look portrayed in the shiny compared to the black and red colors is a nice mix-up, and much more of a drastic change than the last few Pokemon on this list. And with the amount that's going on here, and with the nod to the original Kanto birds, it still maintains the idea of a good shiny Pokemon that has an idea behind its color swap. Number 5. Regidragon. Slap a new coat of paint on it, let it dry, and you've got yourself a new shiny Regidragon. It's way more apparent than the change from Glastrier to its shiny, and is a pretty neat color even though not much has changed. It's suave, not a bad choice, black to blue doesn't hurt me as much as it should, and while I do think it would have been nice to change the color of its dots to add a little bit more, the outer shell basically matching the color of the dots is a good choice. It's a good noticeable change that isn't overbearing or overstepping the limits of color, and will be nice to see in-game in its transformation to a dragon head, unleashing its signature move in a new coated blue shell. Number 4. Regieleki. I know this might seem like a weird pick, but hear me out. Oh, okay, you've already written your comment. But when it comes to shinies, what's used as the color is important. And it's not that silver is my favorite color, it's that for a Pokemon that's based on electrical energy, the wires wrapping around it looking like typical silver electrical coils, like they decided to go with the premium brand, is the choice that I'm willing to look at with my hand on my chin and nod while saying, alright, not bad. In terms of changing that color, they could have made a darker yellow, but for a Pokemon that unleashed electrical energy, it'd be weird to try and find something that actually works as well for a shiny that wouldn't get flamed into the abyss. Regidrago's inner self could have been changed. Red doesn't have to be static for a dragon Pokemon, but for Regieleki, the color change being on only the wires and upgrading to the higher end kind that's at the back in Home Depot is a good and well executed idea. Number 3. Galarian Articuno. I do love blue, and the colors of original Articuno is what made me fall in love with that Pokemon, in a platonic way. So seeing those reimagined onto this new form is a feast. I think if we just covered over the extended eyelashes, it could have been even better. As in its original graceful colors in this form, it comes off a little pompous. But maybe that's just confidence and my body language detector ran out of AAA batteries. That's okay because I can't judge these too much, seeing as almost all of these Pokemon, besides supposedly the Regis, are shiny locked. Articuno's original colors were already great, so seeing them added onto this and working out so well is nice. Over time, the Galarian Articuno form hasn't aged to me as well as I thought, but it's still a nicely changed Pokemon. And this shiny really does let you see the reimagined form of the one bird from the trio. Number 2. Galarian Zapdos. The colors of original Zapdos on this form look so good and make this new shiny form feel like it's actually its own other form to the Kanto bird. Out of all the Kanto colors brought in, this one really makes it look like a stellar Mega Evolution concept. I can see that for Moltres as well, Articuno too, but in terms of what we're used to with Mega Evolution, the change from Kanto Zapdos to shiny Galarian Zapdos looks similar to the change from Mewtwo to the I Can Deadlift 300 Mewtwo. Yellow and black has always just been great, and sprucing up the legs and whitening those eyes just make it look like a fierce roadrunner shooting into battle. It also has that even more Final Fantasy feeling that we like to compare it to, and it's just a great color scheme to see put in. I know it is preference and we're really just going off the colors of how they looked in Generation 1, and seeing how those fit into their newly created forms, but this just looks like the most fitting scheme for what Zapdos was turned into compared to the other two, and makes one great shiny Pokemon. Number 1. Spectrier. Ghost Horse really does have it all. It's a real disappointment to not see this color in the Shadow Rider form, as having the lighter red hue on the Spectral Spirit Horse is a nice change. At least you can tell the colors have changed exclusively on Spectrier, and for a Ghost Horse with those attached hooves also newly colorized, its shiny just feels like it was created with the old nostalgic shiny Pokemon plan in mind. The birds do take their original colors, and that's nostalgic in a different way, but these simple changes to Spectrier and having colors that fit its species without going too overboard reminds me of old Gen 1 shiny Pokemon. It's calm and peaceful, and if I didn't know any better, I might get too close to it and accidentally have my soul kicked out of my body. This is a nicer change to see, and hopefully we'll get to see it in its shiny version in-game sooner than later, as most of these are shiny locked. It would also be nice to see these colors in-game, as they're on parts that could be moved and animated in the wind to show off the glistening colors that Shiny Spectrier has worked so hard to keep together.